Welcome to Where Secrets Go to Die, the disappearance of Derrick Henagan. From the Detroit Free Press, I'm John Wisely. Last time, we learned a lot about Derrick Henagan, from his growing up, to his troubles, to his move to the Upper Peninsula. It's that last part, his time in Upper Michigan, that we want to unpack for you this time. These turned out to be the final months before Derrick vanished, and he spent them with a woman, Dyanna Maddox. She became his girlfriend, a central figure in his life, and in the mystery surrounding his disappearance. Now, as I said earlier, cops did eye different suspects at different times, but Dyanna became a big focus for them and for us, for reasons that will become clear as we go. Her whole relationship with Derrick was roughly 6 months, start to finish, but there's no shortage of drama. Derrick moved to the Upper Peninsula around December 2007. Newberry is the county seat, though it's not very big. The Census Bureau says there are only about 5,300 residents in all of Luce County, though that figure doesn't include almost 1,100 prisoners at Newberry Correctional Facility just south of town. Derrick disappeared from here in August 2008, and he's been missing ever since. So what really happened to him? Now obviously, Derrick carried some baggage from his Hartford days, including a drug problem. His girlfriend Dyanna? She had some baggage of her own. When the two of them met, things moved quickly.
So when I first met Derrick, I don't know when he came to our lives. 2007, I want to say, maybe 2008.
That's Megan Maddox. She was adopted at about age 10 by Dyanna and her first husband. They lived in Lower Michigan for several years, but the marriage ended in divorce before Dyanna's ex died in a car wreck. It was 2007 when Dyanna returned with her kids to her hometown in the UP. Megan left the UP a long time ago. I tracked her down where she now lives, in North Dakota, and she agreed to a phone interview.
We moved to Newberry, my mom and my sisters, and then all of a sudden there's this new guy in the picture, and we're like, okay, cool, whatever, she's doing what she does, she's going out, whatever. So like maybe a month, maybe 2 months later, and she's buying a house with him.
Soon after, the family learned that Dyanna was pregnant. Megan was about 17 then. Dyanna's 2 biological daughters from a previous marriage lived there as well. They were about 16 and 8 at the time.
Well, actually, when we first met him, he was like this big car sales rep, and he was like talking to Dyanna about these cars, and then, I don't know, I guess my mom decided to picked out the car she wanted, and yeah, my mom's driving around this Chrysler 300, not having a job, not doing anything, but probably getting money from the state somehow.
If you sense some bitterness there, it's real and it's complicated. Megan said she never really liked Dyanna, and she believes that Dyanna adopted her to collect money from the government. She went so far as to say she hated her mother, and yes, she knows the way to that word. When Dyanna operated a daycare center out of her home, Megan said she was forced to work in it. She'd have to look after the kids and even take care of her younger sister. Megan said Dyanna once struck her in the face, giving her a bloody nose. Megan said Dyanna treated her differently, far worse than she treated her biological kids. Dyanna would take them shopping or out to eat, but Megan wasn't asked to come along.
It was kind of a Cinderella thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I'd come home from school. My cell phone and laptop had to sit on the kitchen counter. Dinner had to be done. Then the house had to be cleaned. And then every single room had to be cleaned.
Megan had considered Dyanna a mother figure in her life. But she also had questions about what happened to Derrick.
I hope and I pray that answers are found when it comes to Derrick, because if she is involved or if she does know exactly what happened, like, I want nothing more than her to sit behind bars and rot for the rest of her life. Like, I hate her that much.
Now, Derrick, he also had a complicated relationship with Dyanna. There were the good parts. Megan said Derrick really fell in love with Dyanna. Derrick even had her name tattooed onto his arm, right near the name of his son. Dyanna is now 50. She stands about 5'4". Her ears are pierced, and so is the right side of her nose. She has deep-set brown eyes and wavy black hair that's turning gray. She often wears it up in a bun on top of her head. Dyanna grew up in Newberry. She has 2 sisters and 2 brothers. Her parents were divorced. Her dad worked as a pit boss at a nearby casino. Dyanna studied nursing after high school and ran a daycare in her home. She was 34 when she and Derrick moved in together. Dyanna was married at the time, but headed for her second divorce. Derrick was divorced too. Now I should note, I've tried over the years to get Dyanna to speak to me, without much luck. You've already heard her voice in episode 2. Those are conversations with a bail bondswoman who recorded them and later shared them with us. But getting back to Derrick and Dyanna, like their failed marriages, their relationship with one another had troubles too, almost from the get-go. And if Derrick thought Dyanna was going to help him get clean, well, he was wrong. If anything, Megan said the opposite happened. Derrick's drug problems soon became Dyanna's.
My mom didn't touch a single drug a day in her life that I've, been adopted by her. And then she gets with Derrick and she's popping Vicodin and she's letting him steal Xanax and she's, buying a safe and letting him keep all his drugs in there. And absolutely, Derrick totally got her, turned on drugs.
Others have also told me that Dyanna was using drugs around the time she was with Derrick. Dyanna herself would later deny that, saying that she didn't even drink when she was with Derrick because she was pregnant at the time. One thing is clear. Megan said they argued a lot. In late May, one of Dyanna's sisters called police to say that Derrick was possibly assaulting Dyanna, but both denied an assault. In late June 2008, Derrick and Dyanna had another fight that brought the cops to the house. The next day, they both said they didn't want to press charges, but prosecutors later did charge Derrick with domestic violence. Derrick's ex-wife had accused him of beating her up once, but Megan said she never saw Derrick abuse Dyanna.
Besides the fact that he did drugs, I don't think there was really anything wrong or anything bad about Derrick.
He wasn't abusive towards Dyanna, or?
No, I don't think he ever was abusive, to the point where, he would lay his hand on her. Just out of the blue. If Dyanna was pushing on him or clawing at him, biting him, keying him with the key. Oh God. Derrick would try to be get away from me, die. Or, come on. The guy really got my mom's name tattooed on him, and they only dated for, I can't tell you how long.
Dyanna would later say that she was, quote, knocked around, end quote, by Derrick. She said she visited the hospital 3 times because of it. A police report taken on one fight does list an ER visit to check the health of the baby Dyanna was carrying at the time. It said the child was fine. Dyanna had her own history of abuse. She pled guilty to domestic violence after hitting her second husband with a can opener about a year before she met Derrick. Her daughter Megan also told police that Dyanna abused her, though I couldn't find any criminal charges related to that. But it's obvious, by the summer of 2008, Derrick and Dyanna's relationship was crumbling. In early August, Derrick and Dyanna fought again. She said she wanted him out, and she wanted out too. Out of the relationship, out of the house. Dyanna's father had recently died, and she wanted to break the lease on the rental house just outside Newberry that she shared with Derrick. She wanted to move into her dad's place, so she started packing up her things. Derrick did what he often did when they had troubles. He went to stay with friends, in this case, a neighbor, Denny Murdoch. Denny lived a few hundred yards down the road, on the opposite side of the street. That's where Derrick spent what is recorded to be the last weekend of his life. Dyanna spent that Sunday, August 3rd, 2008, with her girls, running an errand downstate. Megan said Derrick was supposed to meet them. He didn't show up, but Dyanna kept in touch with him.
The whole drive there, the whole time we were there, and the whole drive back, she's on the phone just bitching with him. Arguing, crying, doing whatever in the house she does. That's what she did.
Dyanna and the girls returned home late, probably 10, 11 p.m. They immediately thought that maybe Derrick had been in the house while they were gone. Megan said they noticed a pop can sitting on an electric meter outside the kitchen window. Some boxes under the window on the inside looked like they'd been moved. Dyanna and the girls eventually went to bed, but it wasn't a peaceful rest. The family dog started freaking out in the middle of the night. Amid talk of seeing flashlights in the woods outside, Dyanna called her brother BJ, asking him to come over. He didn't find anything. The next morning, Dyanna and Derrick spoke on the phone. Dyanna even drove down to Denny's house to bring Derrick some cigarettes. And that's Megan's recollection of that weekend. A late return, some stuff out of place at home, a visit from BJ, a morning cigarette run. That's pretty much what she told us when we interviewed her by phone in July 2021. And it mostly tracks with what she told Michigan State Police when they interviewed her more than 8 years earlier. Now, Dyanna herself? Well, as I mentioned earlier, her story has evolved over time, with details coming out sometimes in drips. Dyanna recalled the late return. She said she discovered that 2 hunting rifles were missing. She had them stored in cases under her bed. Now, the gun cases were still there, but the guns and some ammo, gone. By her account, BJ arrived before dawn, and after the sun came up, she told him she was going down to Denny's to confront Derrick. Here's Dyanna describing it in a phone call.
And he said, Di, I'm not going to let you go down there. I said, fuck this. I said, I'm going down there, and if I'm not back in a half an hour, I said, you come looking for me. I said, but I'm going down there because I know he has some fucking guns.
Dyanna said she did go down to Denny's house. Derrick came out. They talked in her car.
So Derrick grabbed my hand, and I said, just look at you. I said, you look like shit, because he had dog hair all over him. And I said, where in the hell are those guns? He said, I didn't take those guns.
Dyanna said the chat was cut short. Derrick ducked back inside as a cop car approached. Derrick had warrants for his arrest, including one from the June fight. The patrol car pulled in, and inside was a state trooper, David Mogenberg. He was hard to miss. He stood 6'6". He weighed 225 pounds. He had pale blue eyes and wore his hair in a crew cut. He wrote in his report that he was responding to a call from Dyanna about a breaking and entering at her house. His report doesn't mention catching up with her at Denny's.
That is the only time I lied to the cops, and I told them that because they said, is Derrick in there? And I said, no, he isn't. I was just looking for him. That is the only time, and I told them that on that polygraph test. The only time I've ever lied to them, and that was to cover Derrick's ass for not going to jail.
Mogenberg's report says he interviewed Dyanna at her house, and she showed him a window that didn't lock. She said that's probably how the thief got in, and Mogenberg agreed. Mogenberg noted that he checked for footprints, didn't find any. Dyanna told him there were no signs of forced entry. That's a detail that's worth remembering. Dyanna told Mogenberg that she suspected Derrick, but she said she hadn't talked to him in a couple of days. The report makes no mention of Dyanna confronting Derrick at Denny's house that morning, or of Dyanna's repeated phone conversations with Derrick the day before. So that was the morning. Things got weirder that afternoon. We'll be back after the break. And we're back. Megan said she remembers Dyanna and Derrick talking by phone. Dyanna told Megan she planned to meet Derrick at the deer blinds in the woods behind the house. Those are makeshift shelters that deer hunters build in the woods to stay out of the rain and the wind. But when Dyanna hung up the phone, she didn't go to the woods immediately. She said she wanted to nap. She crashed on the couch for what turned out to be several hours. Megan said when Dyanna finally did get up, she tried to call Derrick. When she couldn't reach him, she wanted to search the deer blinds.
So then she got on her quad, and I had to walk her throughout the woods and show her all the deer blind spots. I want to say there were 4. She's hollering Derrick's name. I'm hollering Derrick's name. There's no Derrick.
Megan said they returned to the house, and Dyanna tried to phone Derrick again. No luck, but Dyanna did reach someone else, and she recounted that earlier conversation with Derrick involving the deer blinds.
I don't know who she calls, but she's talking to somebody on the phone. And that's where I heard her say, Derrick was saying, "Guys are going to kill me. Guys are going to kill me. You need to come and get me. I'm going to go to the woods." So here I am thinking like, okay, so if he's telling you that they're going to kill him and you're going to take a nap, like, I don't know. She made it sound like Derrick was either hallucinating or like coming down off drugs or just talking nonsense.
I've had several conversations with Megan. I've also listened to a recorded conversation she had with an outside investigator. And I've read the state police account of her interview with them. These accounts were given over a period of years. They are mostly consistent, though there are some important differences I need to point out. Megan has described the news about Derrick saying they're going to kill me 3 different ways. The police report says Dyanna told Megan that Derrick said it. But as you just heard, she told me that she heard Dyanna recount that conversation to someone else. When I asked her to reconcile the two, she then said she overheard Derrick say it himself because Derrick and Dyanna were on speakerphone. So what about others who were around at that time? What about Denny Murdoch, the guy with the place just down the road? Turns out he remembered that day as well. We weren't able to reach Denny, but police were. Denny confirmed to them that Derrick stayed with him that weekend. He remembered seeing Dyanna talking to a trooper outside the house that morning. Denny remembered telling Derrick to get out. In Denny's telling of it, Derrick had spent the day calling family and friends downstate, looking for a ride out of the UP. Derrick also talked to Dyanna. Denny said he overheard something about Derrick and Dyanna meeting at the deer blinds. He heard Derrick say something to the effect of, "Come and get me when the coast is clear, and don't mess around because there are a lot of mosquitoes out there." Denny said that later that afternoon, around 4:30 or so, his patience ran out. Denny's girlfriend was due home from work soon, and he wanted Derrick gone before she arrived. Derrick was afraid to leave because he knew the cops were looking for him. He asked Denny to walk out to the road and look both ways for cops. Denny said he did, and then Derrick walked out, down the driveway, across the road, and into the woods that lead back to Dyanna's place. That, right there, is the official version of Derrick's disappearance. The police reports say he was last seen walking into the woods. Here's where things start to get really muddy. Derrick's ex-wife, Sherry, who lived downstate with their son, she told state police that she spoke to Derrick on Sunday, August 3rd. According to the police report, Sherry remembered him saying he was planning to leave Dyanna and return to Lower Michigan. Sherry told police she never heard from Derrick on Monday, August 4th. That's the day he disappeared. She said that was unusual because he called her almost every day to check in on his son. Now, Sherry, she did get a phone call from the UP that day. It was from Dyanna Maddox. Sherry said that was unusual, too, because they didn't get along. Dyanna hated it when Derrick called Sherry, and Dyanna was jealous of Sherry. Sherry told the police, quote, "Oh yeah, she cut her hair to be like mine. She got her nose pierced like mine. You know, she tried to be like me, and I really think she hated it," end quote. Sherry said she was at work when Dyanna called her cell phone that Monday, August 4th. Quote, "She's like, he's gone," Sherry said as she recounted the conversation to police. I asked her, "Who's gone? What are you talking about?" And she said, "D, he's gone. I can't find him," end quote. Dyanna told Sherry that Derrick never showed up for their planned meeting at the deer blinds. Sherry said at that point, she started to panic. Sherry said that Dyanna told her that she'd already called police to report Derrick missing, but that's not what the police reports say. The missing person report was filed 3 days later. The day Derrick was last seen, Dyanna also called his mom, Betty Henagan. Betty recounted it in an email to a friend. She said the call came at about 5:50 p.m. Dyanna said Derrick never showed up at the deer blinds as planned. Betty suspected immediately her son was dead. Other people received phone calls as well.
Are you surprised that the Derrick Henagan thing has lasted as long as it has?
Oh, yes. I'm really surprised. You know, there's people out there that know something. Something happened. And I think I heard the beginning of it.
That's Brian Mitchell. He was married to Dyanna's sister Mary when Derrick disappeared, though they later divorced. Brian described to me a phone call from Dyanna to his wife. He couldn't remember the exact date, but he knows it was right around the time that Derrick disappeared.
It seemed like it was towards evening. You know, a phone call come in. You know, of course, Mary always answered the phone call. So she said, "We got to get out there. They're fighting really bad, and there's blood all over the place," is what she said. And all I can think of is, oh my God, you know, some major's going on. So I said, okay, let's go.
Brian thought Dyanna was in danger from Derrick. Brian had a license to carry a concealed weapon, so he got his handgun and started to load it. But he never did go out to the house that Derrick and Dyanna shared. His wife ended the call and said everything was taken care of.
Pretty much after that, you know, I started gathering my stuff to get out the door. Then all of a sudden, everything went quiet. We weren't going out there. You know, everything just quiet. And everything just got dropped just like that.
Brian Mitchell told us that when we interviewed him at his kitchen table in the UP in January 2020, right before COVID-19 hit. It wasn't the first time he'd recounted the call. Brian told us that after Derrick disappeared, he stopped by the state police post and told Trooper David Mogenberg about it. But Mogenberg didn't seem interested.
He was not writing anything down, nothing.
There's no record of that visit in the reports provided by the state police. It wasn't until 2015 that another trooper interviewed Mitchell about that panicked call and included it in his report. Here are some more oddities. One of Dyanna's biological daughters, Teresa, didn't respond to our request to interview her, but was interviewed by police in 2015, 7 years after Derrick disappeared. She was about 16 the summer Derrick went missing. Teresa said that she remembered being at the house that day. She said her uncle BJ returned to the home between 3 and 5 p.m., and BJ and Dyanna rode four-wheelers to search the woods for Derrick. While they were out, Teresa said she heard 3 gunshots, quote, really close to the house, end quote. She said her mom returned, got on the phone, and stayed on it for several hours. Teresa said her mom was pretty hysterical throughout the afternoon. Now, in hundreds of pages of police reports, Teresa is the only person who ever mentions hearing gunshots at any point. Teresa also seemed pretty certain about this BJ story. But a few months later, Teresa said she didn't remember BJ being there that night. She still remembered the gunshots, though. For what it's worth, BJ told police he had nothing to do with Derrick's disappearance. When I talked to Megan, she questioned Teresa's account. She at first told me she was pretty sure Teresa wasn't even there that afternoon. Eventually she said, quote, I know for a fact Teresa wasn't there, end quote. That is a possibility. In my reading of the reports, it looks like Dyanna's sister Mary picked up the kids. Dyanna had told her she and Derrick were going to be fighting. Mary said the kids spent the afternoon at her house. She thought Teresa may have driven, though she couldn't remember for sure. Teresa also told police that she remembered Megan walking to the Bear Den, a local market, to buy bleach because, quote, her mother needed to clean up something in the house, end quote. Teresa couldn't pinpoint a date for the police. She said it was around the time Derrick disappeared, and her mother had to have bleach. She remembers Dyanna cutting out a square piece of the carpet because there was blood in it. But a few weeks later, Teresa talked to police again, and she walked back that story. The investigator wrote in his report, quote, for clarification, she had spoken with her sister Megan, and neither her nor Megan ever remember going to get large quantities of bleach or cleaning materials from the Bear's Den, end quote. Now, for her part, Megan denies ever buying bleach or needing it in the house to clean up blood. And remember, Megan, Teresa, and Mary were interviewed by police years after the fact. But on the question of the bleach, either they went to the Bear Den and bought it, or they didn't. So we talked to Linda Pease, who at the time owned the Bear Den. It's this little market just down the road from where Derrick and Dyanna lived. We've stopped in there pretty much every time we visited. It's sort of a community landmark, but it's also a good listening post to hear what the locals are talking about. It's got 3 gas pumps out front and 6 or so aisles of groceries inside. There's also beer, wine, and liquor there. They've even got a little deli counter. Dyanna's girls came in often, though their mom mostly stayed in the car. Derrick was a regular, too. Linda remembers liking him.
You know, he was bubbly, friendly, always happy-go-lucky. Talked to me a lot about his son, how excited he was when he was going to see his son and things like that.
Linda said she went to school with both of Dyanna's parents. After they'd all raised families and then divorced, Linda renewed her friendship with Dyanna's father, Gilbert. They were starting to date when he died unexpectedly. So Linda was wired in to pretty much everyone in town, including Derrick, Dyanna, and Dyanna's daughters. Linda's employees knew them as well.
Pat was talking to us and said that the girls came in and bought out all the cleaning supplies, all the bleach and stuff that I had on the shelves, and a bunch of other cleaning supplies that I had in the store.
Pat is a former clerk at the Bear Den who worked for Linda. She died in 2010. But Linda and others from the store remember her account.
And it seemed kind of strange, but we didn't think about it, okay, cleaning something. And then the next day or two, all of a sudden he's missing. And then he can't be found at all.
Linda insists her security cameras would have captured the bleach purchase, but she didn't know to look for it until well after her recording system had taped over that portion of the file. She said if she'd known earlier, she would have saved the footage. Truthfully, I'm frustrated. I wish I could tell you, flat out, the definitive story about the bleach. But I will say this, theirs isn't the last word on that topic. We'll be back after the break. And we're back. This case just has so many what-ifs around it. What if we had video showing the girls buying bleach? What if Brian Mitchell had gone out to the house after Dyanna's call for help? What if Trooper Mogenberg had found Derrick at Denny's house that morning and arrested him? How differently all of this might have turned out. Now, Linda, she recently sold the store to new owners who changed the name. But she's still well connected in town. She has a cousin named Kathleen Woodley. Now, Kathleen, well, she owned the house that Derrick and Dyanna rented. She knew them as tenants, but she also knew them through her side hustle. Kathleen worked as a DJ in local bars, and she'd see them drinking together. Kathleen remembers talking to Dyanna around the time that Derrick disappeared. She told us she was camping when Dyanna called her.
She asked if she could get out of her lease. And I said, why? And I remember saying, she said something about wanting to rent her dad's place or wanting to move in with her dad.
When Dyanna did move out a couple weeks after Derrick disappeared, Kathleen, like any landlady, well, she checked out the house before returning the security deposit. She found a damaged door that was removed from the frame and replaced with a new door. So we can't say for sure when the door was damaged, but we can say that when Trooper Mogenberg walked through the house 3 weeks earlier, he made no mention of a damaged door in his report. Dyanna would later say that one of her errands the day before Derrick disappeared was to go to Lowe's to get doors for the house. She said she had to replace ones that Derrick had damaged. Her daughter Megan, who accompanied her on that trip, doesn't recall stopping at Lowe's. In any case, Kathleen also found a damaged window. Kathleen said she saw spots on the carpeting in the living room and in the other bedrooms. But the master bedroom, it was a mess.
The carpet on the floor there, it was pretty bad. It was like blotchy. To me, it looked just blotchy. It looked like someone had tried bleaching areas. I was angry, probably.
Kathleen said she found other damage as well, including to a heat register, though she couldn't remember if that was in the master bedroom or the bath. She also found a section of drywall in the master bedroom that had been replaced and repainted. So Kathleen asked about that damage.
Someone in their family told me that her brother was helping her move her TV and it was too heavy and he fell against the wall and that's what happened.
So think about that from the perspective of a landlady. You've got a damaged and replaced back door, a damaged window. You've got blotchy stains on the carpet throughout the house, which could have come from bleach. You've got the damage to the register and a crude patch job on the drywall. At that point, Kathleen did what most landladies would do. She kept $700 from the security deposit.
And she got a full explanation with the letter and everything.
Did she
argue the fact?
Yeah.
She called me and asked me why. And I explained to her, I said, if you have any question, if you dispute this, you know where the court is.
When we started this story, we were searching the woods, and we found that bullet-riddled blue jug, which the search dog, Jess, seemed to think might carry traces of human remains. The plan was for Bert Crawford, Jess's handler, to take the jug and have another dog test it. They do that by putting it out in a field with a couple of other items. If the second dog alerts to human remains on it, that's considered confirmation. So that was the plan, but COVID kind of interfered. Bert is 85, and he contracted COVID. He ended up in the hospital, and frankly, I was worried he wouldn't survive. The good news is he made it. He was recovering at home, and we tried to let him be, but eventually I reached out. I needed to know if he'd been able to run that test.
Hello.
Bert Crawford, John Wisely at the Free Press. How you doing?
Hey, John. How are you? Doing okay. Thank you.
That's good to hear. How's your health?
Oh, not bad. I think I'm getting accident prone. I'm at that age.
Oh, no. Did you have I was thrilled to hear Bert was doing better. And then I asked him. Bert said he did run a second test. So, did another dog confirm Jess's hit?
Yeah, nobody else hit on that. Nothing.
Really?
Oh, I had 3 dogs go over it.
Wow.
Three different HR dogs that are really well known. I guess Pat.
He paired up with a downstate woman who is a respected handler of human remains detection dogs.
We were training, and she only wanted 2 sources set out. So they were old sources, like a gauze pad, and then there was a slipper that had been involved in an accident, and it just had minute blood on it. And I put those 2 out, and then I put the blue jug out in between them, not in a lineup, but where the dog had to search. and her dog passed right over it.
That was not the result we were hoping for. We knew from the beginning it was a long shot, but we got pretty excited when we heard Jess bark. The bullet holes in the jug piqued our interest even more. But for now, we can't say that there were human remains on it. Here's the thing. Despite the negative test, Bert is convinced that search was important.
Definitely something there, because she caught it on the wind when we were on top of that hill on that sand dune there. So I thought, well, like I say, Jess was just drawn to it for some reason, but with all her actions on top of that hill when the wind was blowing at her, there's something out there, John.
Something out there. We should tell you that Mike and Bert didn't search that property by accident. There's a reason they chose to search there. That property is owned by the local road commission. As the crow flies, it's about 5 miles from where Derrick was last seen. But the edge of it, well, it's about 300 yards from the back door of a home. That home belonged to 6'6", pale blue-eyed, crew-cut state trooper David Mogenberg. Next time on Where Secrets Go to Die.
I even asked him, what is this? And he looked at me and he goes, if you tell anyone about what you've seen out here today, he's like, I will go to the house, I will kill your mother in front of you, and then kill you.
This podcast is a production of the Detroit Free Press. It was investigated, written, and hosted by me, John Wisely. Our executive director is Anjanette Delgado. Our executive producer is Darcy Moran. Kathy Kalashevsky is our story editor, and Jim Schaefer is our managing editor. Nicole Avery Nichols is editor of the Detroit Free Press. Sound design and mix by Garrett Tiedemann. Original theme music by Camilla Cantu and Brian Castillo. Thanks to associate audio producer Robin Chan and development and contributing producer Tad Davis. And a special thanks to former Free Press photojournalist Kathleen Galligan, whose initial reporting was instrumental to this story. Outside audio in this episode was provided by Jody Newman. For more on this story, including photos, videos, and source documents, see our Where Secrets Go to Die show notes. If you have a tip from me, you can send it in an encrypted email to wiselyj@proton.me. To support investigative journalism like this, become a Detroit Free Press subscriber. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast. That's a huge help to us. See you next time. If you or someone you know has experienced domestic violence, help is available through the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 800-799-SAFE or by visiting their website at thehotline.org. For help with mental health or substance use disorders, visit samhsa.gov or call their hotline at 800-662-HELP for free confidential referrals.